Obviously, one of the big names in the team at the time, and you obviously now played with them again in Astralis later, is of course Vizicsacsi. And if this was, in fact, if people remember, this was his MVP split, was that first split that you were playing with him, and basically it was sort of the prime of his career, right? What I want to ask about is this. When I actually did an interview with him last year, I was actually quite shocked because I thought he was going to be a bit like Odoamne, who you also played with later, where like if people know Odoamne, he is absolutely totally fine with the idea he's like the weak side king and that he's only going to every now and then in the right meta get the carry picks, etc. He just kind of knows that's the way his career's gone and that's what he's actually the best at, right? But I actually was shocked because I thought Vizicsacsi was going to have the same attitude because he played like a very similar style at times in his career. But actually Vizicsacsi seemed almost like quite regretful, like he actually feels like in this time period maybe he could have been like a proper star top laner, like maybe he shouldn't have just been a weak side of his whole career after that, and he shouldn't have played the tanks, he should have been a carry player. So I want to know, like, what was it actually like to play with him at this time at his absolute peak, and do you agree? Do you think basically like by being a kind of a sacrificial top laner, could he have been a different type of player in LCS if he wanted, in EULCS/LEC? What do you think?
Oh, I mean, for sure. Like, I think, like, back in 2017, I felt like he was so far ahead of every top laner. And I will never forget this. I just remember the schemes where he was, like, playing Trundle in some matchups. And, like, this guy was solo killing his opponent every single game at, like, level 1, level 2, you know, like, consistently. And I was like, that was so freaking impressive for me at the time, you know. And I do remember like his start like back then was like so sick, and I think he was like I feel like he's a really good player, you know. And I feel like maybe if he hadn't taken the break, even this split, you know, I'm thinking about this split. I don't think he's had a bad split, but I do think coming from like a break for like what 2 years, it's definitely not easy, you know. So like considering that he's had this long break, I really think he did, you know, like really good. And I think with more time he could go back to that form, but I think it's gonna take a bit of time.
Right, to ask another question about Vizicsacsi, I'm going to sort of bleed into today now when he's in Astralis to tie it in, because basically I actually think this split where, obviously, because he's just come back individually, he wasn't particularly good and people kind of flamed him a bit, but I think this split actually shows like some of the essential qualities as to why so many players want to play with him in their careers, and he's actually one of those guys I noticed gets a very high rep from his former teammates. Like everyone says he was great and a really great teammate, because one of the things they always said through the years that started after this period was the notion that he's like a good mind for the game and a shot caller, and he can sort of help set things up and give people, right? Basically, in theory now, if he's just come back in his individual form, you think that shows the most. And I think a lot of people would credit that as part of why Astralis got all these wins this split and had so many games where early on it would look good and then the team could even close games out sometimes. Over his career and the times you've played with him, is this accurate? Is Vizicsacsi kind of like a big voice in the team? Is he a shot caller? How would you describe the way he thinks about the game?
It's more than accurate for me, and for me, like Vizicsacsi will always have a special place in my heart, because I you know, like when I made it to UOL, he's the one that believed in me, that I can be good enough for LEC, and he vouched for me in UOL. And to me, like, you know, that was just like very, you know, he's like my like, I just look up to him like a lot. And in all, like, I played with him like 2.5 years now. I played in UOL, Splice, and now in Astralis for a split, right? And every time I played with him, I felt like it was very, he made like the atmosphere like very good. It was very easy to work with him, very easy to talk about the issues. And I think in Astralis it was very easy that we had kind of 3 of the Splice boys, right? So it was easier to focus on the rookies. But yeah, he was a very big voice in the team and in just like overall our gameplay.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.